welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so let's check out some viewer comments. And this was in the last video, link in the description, when I talk about Rolex logo dials and Shooby Dooby. That was embarrassing to say. He said, this is all licensing, mutually beneficial collaborations. Well, I think they were better for the companies that hired Rolex to do these dials, personally. And Rolex must have felt the same way. While the logo watches from Rolex of the past are not licensing pieces, Rolex actually still actively participates and markets licensing products. They just do it much more tactfully. Wimbledon date just, end of discussion. No, it's not. All right. People call it the Wimbledon date just, but there's nothing on the site that connects it to Wimbledon, and I think it's a nickname. Now, is there a connection between Wimbledon and Rolex? Absolutely, but that's a sponsorship, and it's a little bit different. And as far as that being a Wimbledon dial, I've never heard anything from Rolex to confirm that. So there you go. Now, I'll just point out that there have been multiple comments saying, well, you know, there is the Hulk and the Batman, and there's that connection. Well, those are, of course, are nicknames, and I only bring that up to illustrate that there are people walking around out there, including watching my channel, that thinks there's some sort of connection between Marvel or DC Comics and Rolex. These are obviously, and I know I'm stating the obvious here, these are nicknames. Rolex doesn't have anything to do with them, and in fact, I think Rolex probably cringes at these nicknames. Remember when I went to the RSC and I was talking to the woman and I said, oh, you know, this is a Pepsi, and she was like, oh, really? You know, and she's real smiley about it. Well, upon reflection, I think she knew that, you know, she had heard about the Coke, she said, but she hadn't heard about she had heard about the Pepsi, I'm sorry, but she hadn't heard about the Coke. I think she had heard about them, but I think it's awkward, and I don't think they like it, and I don't think they want to perpetuate that. And instead of saying, yeah, that's right, I think she played dumb, and it was kind of like, I don't know, I've never heard that. Maybe that's your stupid thing. Hopefully, you know, thinking that I might give up that ridiculous naming scheme. So I don't think Rolex wants anything to do with super characters or sodas or anything like that, and it probably makes them cringe. So yeah. One of these same guys actually said, yeah, there's the connection between Mercedes and Rolex because that Mercedes hands. Well, you know, the Mercedes hands on, say, this here sub. Yeah, that's, no, there's not, you know. Why is there a Mercedes hands? Well, is it a secret message to Hans Wilsdorf's lover, Mercedes Gleitz? Look, I don't know that they had a thing going on. That's some weird theory that I've heard, and I think it's ridiculous. Personally, here's what I think. This is my own theory, and I think it's right. Tritium cracks, okay? Tritium cracks. And if you've seen some old Tudors, it's just one big disc of tritium on the hour hand. And I think this really, it's not a Mercedes symbol. It's just framing to sort of support the tritium, because if this tritium, by the way, mine is almost, you know, on one little portion you can almost see through it. So if it didn't have that support, I would have some broken tritium on here. And you know what? I'd also have Luminova hands because Rolex wouldn't have tolerated it. They would have changed out the hands. So that's my theory. I think the Mercedes symbol is just really a support system for the tritium, and is lasted into the Luminova, and it looks kind of cool. But as far as yeah, Mercedes Gleitz or Mercedes Benz, no connection. All right, next, DM writes, and we're all over the place here, but that's fun. I never understood why Omega went after James Bond. Yeah, getting that sponsorship. Yeah, I get the money angle, but yet again, it throws them in the shadow of Rolex, as they were the brand of choice of Fleming. Absolutely. Explorer 1016, that's right. Ian Fleming had an Explorer 1016, and the sub in the first before and best Bond movies. I agree. Yes, I mean, there's only one real Bond to me, and it's Sean Connery, and those are the best. Those are the best Bond films, and he was the best Bond, and that, for me, is the crystallized archetype of Bond with his no dates. I can't get into the Omega Bond. I mean, fine movies, I'm sure, but as far as Bond, the character in his purest form, give me Sean Connery and his Rolex every time. I continue. When everyone talks about Bond watches, they talk about Rolex first. Sort of sums up their brand, Rolex first, Omega second. They should have gone after Jason Bourne and created their own movie horology history. Boy, is that some good advice. Absolutely, start fresh. Jason Bourne would have been a great choice, you know? I don't know what Tom Cruise wore in Mission Impossible, but, you know, I mean, Omega could have gone down that route, but to try to pull that out from Rolex actually makes Omega seem very small, in my opinion. And, you know, Omega has just recently beat Rolex for the deepest diving watch. I'll put a link in the description to that too, but I want to say, you know, just something like a few months ago, they had one of their watches, sort of a specially made watch, to strapped on to a submersible, and it went deeper than any other watch, including Rolex, which Rolex for decades had that distinction. Now, is it kudos to Omega? Yeah, sort of, but the thing they were chasing Rolex's tail. The thing about Rolex is, it was Rolex back in the day, Rolex against the environment, Rolex against the sea. This time around, it was Omega against Rolex. And really, am I saying that Omega is second fiddle to Rolex? No, but the way Omega acts, you can kind of tell that they think they are, and that they have a complex, and it's telling. And hey, I mean, they might think that they're often projecting, you know, a one-up sort of scenario on Rolex, but the effortlessness with which Rolex did it comes through. They never bargained for themselves to be on the wrist of the original and best James Bond. It just happened. And it's that effortlessness that's cool, and it's that striving and sort of, we're coming, we're going to get you, we're going to try to, you know, catch up to you. That's really cringy when it comes to Omega. Just do your own thing. Leave it alone. Make your own legacy. Stop trying to, you know, steal it and wiggle it out from under Rolex. It makes you look bad, Omega. All right. Rooker 34P says, maybe you can tell me, Austin, are there thousands of Japanese people over there wearing 44 millimeter watches? I don't understand Grand Seiko's sizing at all. They seem to me tone deaf about what would appeal to Westerners. Please help me see what I'm blind here. Well, no, nobody wears 44 millimeter watches except when it's G-Shock. You know, I think 40 millimeter, maybe 36 if you're talking something like a Datejust or a dress watch. People don't like oversized watches here, again, unless it's a G-Shock. So I don't know what I don't know what Grand Seiko is doing. I mean, they're making the Godzilla oversized, in my opinion. And, you know, they recently came out with like a bluesy GMT dive watch. It's beautiful. It's got some gold accents I don't know how I feel about, but it's a beautiful watch. It's 44 millimeters. What are you doing? I can't do that watch. That ruins it for me. It ruins it for a lot of people. You know, are they trying to keep up with what they perceive as the current trend for big watches? Probably, but you know, I think you alienate a lot of people with big watches. Although, you know, younger people, look, I check out what younger people have on the wrist, and you know, these huge Nixon watches at like 45 millimeters. You know, they go from their G-Shock to like a mechanical watch, and I can understand why they want to go 44, 45 millimeters. So they are the market that these companies might be targeting. And I think, is it a good move now? No, probably not. But as these, G-Shock wearing youngins start getting some cash, they may be drawn to the bigger watches. I point to producer Michael's cameraman. Producer Michael bought him a watch. He had his pick of the litter, man. He had it narrowed down to the biggest watch that Rolex makes, the Deep Sea at 44 millimeters, or a Panerai. Because he liked big watches. He likes big watches. And so he chose one of those. Now, spoiler alert, what does he choose? Oh, cringe, he gets the Panerai. He can't do anything with these youngins. But anyway, hey, the Panerai will be fine. And I think he says something about wanting to buy his own Rolex, which I totally get. Buying your own Rolex is an awesome rite of passage. And if he's saving the Rolex for that, more power to him. But, God, the Deep Sea, man, that's what you want. Anyway, all right, yeah, I don't know if they're tone deaf or not, but I think they're appealing to the world and international market and not actually the market here. That's one other complaint I have with a lot of the Grand Seiko spring drives. I think they're too big. Give me one in 36 millimeters. Anyway, I'm just real down on big watches, and I think maybe Anthony Bourdain, who I just made a video of, he would agree. Actually, he had a Panerai himself, so I don't know, man. I don't know what it is. Rooker. All right, High Desert Forester writes, according to Mark Goldberg, you can tell the RSC not to replace certain parts when you send a watch in for service. I don't know if I would bet the farm on that, but there it is. Okay, well, yes and no. I mean, he's kind of right, but then there's some missing information here. Okay, the fact is, what they'll do is they'll give you a list of things that kind of could be replaced, kind of needs to be replaced. Things you should check out is a scratched up bezel. Something that you might want to consider replacing. And you can give the okay, or you can say no, which, trust me, you want to say no. You want everything original, and keep things original, okay? But there are things that they will have you agree to replace if they see fit. So they'll kind of take the watch and they say, tritium hands, we might have to replace them. Are you cool with that? And if you say, I'm not cool with it at all, they'll say, we can't service your watch then. We need you to agree, okay? And I think that's for a couple reasons. I think when they're pulling off the hands, if the tritium cracks, they're screwed. They don't have hands. I mean, if you're talking Luminova, they'll just get another pair of hands and probably not say anything to you about it. You won't be the wiser. Who cares, right? But they won't be able to do that with tritium. So if there's a problem, I think to keep themselves from having to put broken tritium hands on it, which would be totally uncool, that would damage the integrity of the watch. They make it so they could just say, yeah, we had to change these, and they would probably frame it as, to keep the integrity of the watch, we had to change them. So, if you go and you have say a tritium dialed watch and it's not Schmicko, and the tritium's all, cracked and corroded and half of it's missing, they're not going to put those hands back on. They're gonna force you to get Luminova hands, and if you don't like it, tough. Okay, you're gonna have to take your watch somewhere else. So, as far as my hands go, they were able to do it, but I can assure you, if there was some problem and this tritium cracked, I would have gotten Luminova hands, and I would have had to have paid for them, and I had to agree to that beforehand, that possibility might occur. Even if you say, if you crack them, just slap them on, I want them original. They're not going to let a watch like that go out. Absolutely not. Can you imagine if that got out, that they broke your tritium and it would be a mess. They don't want that, and they have a history of not really being keen on the vintage aesthetic, and so it's not some place you want to take 4-digit Rolexes and tritium. I'm not going to take this back there. They're not going to get a hold of it, and I'll tell you why. Because the little area in the hour hand that I could, it's like 1 atom of tritium before I think it would you would see the other side. I'm pretty sure that would be unacceptable. In fact, I'm even surprised they let it go. All right, but it wouldn't happen. So Mark's kind of okay if you're okay with a scratched up bracelet. I don't think they're going to make you polish it, and they're not going to force you to change out anything. But they can't get a replacement parts for, say, like hands, and if it's a real tropical dial, they're going to say we can't really let this go out. It makes us look bad. If somebody sees it and says, "Man, you need to have that worked on," and the owner says, "I did. I just had an overhaul." The person might be very surprised and might not understand that the vintage status actually calls for that patina, and that it's actually better off like that. Rolex, they're all about the new schmicko, totally perfect looking watch. Okay, they're not into the patina kind of thing. Anyway, too long of an answer for that, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, so last one, Sam Q. Will you polish your Rolex watch by the Rolex Service Center for free or keep it at the original form? I'm in this awkward situation since my two-tone GMT2 needs a service indeed, but I'm not sure about the polishing stuff. There is no big dent or scratches, just some daily marks on the watch. Will you consider to polish it or not? Well, that's a personal question, but I don't go for polishing, especially not if it has not been polished. I mean, I think if you're considering it, I would give it to Rolex and say, first of all, has this watch been polished? I mean, if you can't tell yourself, ask them. And if they say yes, well then I would be more inclined to polish it. If you say, well, it's already been deflowered, de-virginized, I would like a beautiful watch. They're gonna do a beautiful job on it, and they're gonna, they might make it so you really even can't tell it's been polished. Anyway, I kind of want to bring this up. I mean, when I took it to them, it had been polished badly, and now it looks beautiful. I mean, people in the videos say like, wow, those lugs are so beautiful. And they did do an amazing job, and it's like they put back the chamfers, and I'm can't believe they were able to do it. But I'm sure if you really knew 14060s well, and you're comparing a non-polished piece to this piece, you would say, well, they really kind of had to take quite a bit of metal off, and I don't know what they did. But anyway, my whole point is that they'll do an awesome job, and I would never think of allowing anybody to polish my watches but Rolex. Okay, third-party polishes, absolutely not. Couldn't pay me to do it. My God, no. I've seen it. I've seen the third-party polishes. I've bought watches with third-party polishes. Are they okay? Kind of. But when you get down in there, can you see that they're kind of eyeballing it? Yeah, don't want that. So it's a personal thing, but for me, if I get a beat-up watch and it's unpolished, it's going to stay that way. I'm going to embrace those, that worn look and enjoy it for its virginal status. And I got to tell you, I love a nice used-looking piece, especially when it's an unpolished piece, because all of that history is on that watch. 100% of it is on that watch. So, if it's a watch that has been deflowered like my Explorer 2, I would consider a polish, yes, and I have considered a polish with that watch because I would love to have it have a Rolex polish. But there goes this history that it made with me. So honestly, in some situations I can theoretically justify a polish personally, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think I'm going to ever say, you know, I've been wearing this Explorer 2 for decades. Look at it. Look at this history. Look how beat up it looks. I'm going to make it new. I love it because it's beat up. Other people don't see it like that. They love a new, just the newer the better. Japanese people, I'm pretty sure that they want their watch to look new as possible. I don't know if most of them, who aren't into watches at least, and vintage watches, are going to be keen on the aesthetic of like, you know, a well-worn watch. I love that aesthetic. I think it's awesome. So if I were you, number one question, has it been polished? If the answer is no, don't do it, okay? If the answer is yes, well, it's already been deflowered, but do you wanna wear down more metal? I mean, it sounds like it doesn't really need a polishing. I would wait, and actually, if you wait and you develop sort of a history and the piece develops a little bit of your history, you might down the road think, I don't want to polish it. So, you know, this is the only watch I've ever had polished by Rolex, and do I regret it? No, I don't actually, because the lugs were so obviously polished from like across the room that I kind of needed to do it, and I yeah. But anyway, there you go. I'm real anti-polishing. So take care. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments in the comment section. See you next time.